Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the universe. And Shavua Tov, we're at the beginning of a new week. I trust you all had a wonderful Shabbat and that you are having an even more glorious week. So have a great week. Um, Welcome to the channel. Welcome to this channel. My name is Shoshana Chaya, and I'm a simple Jewish woman. As you know, this channel is for you if you are beginning in Judaism. It sounds like a really strange thing to say, but you may have lived a secular life all your life and have now just come into a need and a drive and a motivation to live a more observant life. And it could also be that you're a new convert or that you are in your kind of conversion journey to Judaism. Wherever you are in Jewish practice, welcome, welcome, welcome. And the reason I set up this channel was really just to, see if I could be of any service to you, because I know that when I began my observance, my Jewish observance, a few years ago now, there are things, there are ideas and things that I discovered that I found out along the way that were incredibly helpful. And so I want to share them with you. And one of the things I encountered was, people asking me about how difficult it was to live an observant life, to be observant. Don't you have to, keep Shabbat? And aren't there all these rules of things you can do and things you cannot do and things you can eat and things you can't eat and blah, 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 blah. And so I noticed that outside of observant life, if you see yourself on the outside looking in, it seems sometimes like it's really arduous, especially if you have a rebellious nature and you really want to do your own thing. And it seems to you like you have to live with all these rules, and it can seem quite difficult. My experience has been the exact opposite of that. And in a particular sense, part of the reason I'm doing this channel is really to demonstrate how disarmingly simple it is to live an observant life. And it really all begins with the heart. It begins with a yearning to know my Creator and to live according to His will, really. And it starts with a recognition, almost like a little baby and its mother. Really starts with a recognition that not only am I not really able to function at my best without my Creator, I don't want to be without my Creator. I really want to know Him, and I want to have a relationship, a real, true, authentic relationship with my Creator in every moment. And what I discovered in Judaism was that not only could I have a real relationship with Him, that actually was His will. His will is that I relate with Him in love and in joy, and that I discover that His will is actually my will. His will is actually how I want to live. And that the life that He intends for me, or that He intended for me, is infinitely greater than what I have been aspiring to. As an old teacher of mine used to say, it's not that you ask for too much, it's that you ask for way too little. And so yeah, in this channel, we're going to speak about what it really takes to live an observant life, and what the reward is, and how is life. And here I have something really exciting, actually. I'm going to be talking to simple Jewish women just like me. When I say a simple Jewish woman, I mean, I'm not some theologian. I'm not some, you know, philosopher, big macher, like huge thinker. I'm not setting out to renew Judaism or reform Judaism or conserve Judaism or reconstruct Judaism. I don't have these great big ideas of how Judaism really ought to be to suit my crazy agenda. Yeah, I am really here with a pure heart and completely willing to live according to halakha, according to Jewish law, according to the laws of Hashem, and to express and share my joy in doing so. And so I'm going to be talking to other women who are just like me, who have embarked on living an observant life and just have found it to be everything they've always wanted to do. Tomorrow, I'm actually going to be interviewing a very, very dear friend, and I keep telling her that in terms of just day-to-day Jewish living, she is one of the people that really taught me everything I know and demonstrated to me how simple it really truly is, and just how desirable and how much fun it really is to live an observant life. So tomorrow I'm going to be talking to Sheva, and we'll be talking, tomorrow in the afternoon. I'll try and make it a live thing. I might even do a Facebook Live on it, so it will be simultaneously broadcast on YouTube and on Facebook. I'll see if we can do that. Apparently, Zoom allows me to do that, so we'll have to check that out and see if it works. In the meantime, as you know, the series that we're doing right now is a series on the 13 principles of Jewish faith, where we're looking at each principle, what a Jew really believes. Ani mamin, I believe. What does a Jew really believe deep down? And if you're converting to Judaism, what are the ideas that you should be accepting as fundamental to your faith? So that's what we're doing. And of course, as you know, we are using a wonderful book by Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan of blessed memory called Fundamentals of Jewish Faith, Maimonides Principles, Fundamentals of Jewish Faith, Ani Ma'amin in Hebrew, which means I believe. So we're using that book, and where he really goes through each principle. There are 13 principles and all, and Rabbi Kaplan goes through each principle and he really goes in deep. And that's what we want to do. And I'm not so much into the theory. For me, it's the practice. How does this affect me personally? How do I live according to this principle in my daily life? Because really, at the end of the day, that's what you want to know. How does this help me? How does this, it's all well and good to say, God is there and he needs me to believe this. So my question, of course, is why? Why do I need to believe this? Why do I need to have this be my guiding principle? So that's what we're going to be looking at. We're looking at it as simple people. The Baal Shem Tov, who really transformed, in my view anyway, the practice of Judaism, of Jewish theology, and brought it to the simple person, the simple Jew in the street, where he didn't have to go off and be stuck in a yeshiva forever and learn all the great books and the Talmud and everything that Judaism has going for it. He needed a system whereby the average farmer, the average Joe, the average banker, the average accountant who had other things to do that made it very difficult for him to go and, closet himself in a yeshiva somewhere and study Torah 24/7. I mean, there are people who simply, whose lives just really don't allow them to do that. Are they now lost to Judaism? Are they lost to heaven because, they can't do that? Clearly not. It cannot be the intention of our Creator that if we can't, spend 24/7 studying the great books, that, we can't practice Judaism, or that we've somehow excluded ourselves from the covenant. So the Baal Shem Tov really was able to bring the teaching of Judaism to the common Joe Schmo, to me, to you, just average people, and show us that there's really a way that we can live according to the principles of Judaism, and make even the study of Judaism not so arduous, and this, of course, is the foundation of Hasidic Judaism, or what we call Hasidism, or I don't know how you would say it without the ch sound, but it's Hasidut, And so where was I going with this? Where I was going with this was that Judaism is a way of life for every Jew, no matter the station, no matter where they found themselves. And of course, this is what the seventh Lubavitcher Rebbe so beautifully and exquisitely demonstrated. And we see that with every Chabad emissary that we encounter. But I don't want to kind of go off into the Chabad way of life. I want to kind of stay with the 13 principles and then just pull in examples of how that actually works, or how that has been working in my life and in the lives of the women that I'm going to be interviewing starting tomorrow with my dear friend Sheva. But tonight we will continue with the Aryeh Kaplan book. And if you give me a moment, I'll just share it here for you. I did open it, so I'm going to share my screen. And here it is. All right. Okay, I'm just wondering actually if there is a way to do this on a kind of a split screen level. Somebody complained that it didn't work quite as well with me off in the corner. But you're not here to look at my face. We're here to learn. We're here to learn together. So we're learning Torah. This is great. So where we stopped last week, just before Shabbos, at the last class that we did, we stopped with the commentary on the Mishnah. And so we stopped with this idea. The Torah teaches us this first principle in the first of the 10 commandments. So we begin to see where these principles occur in the Torah. And of course, it occurs in the first commandment. This first principle, which is, we're going to repeat it here, I believe with perfect faith that God is the creator and ruler of all things. He alone has made, does make, and will make all things. And for me personally, how that worked was in recognizing that this wasn't, some remote principle that I had to learn to recite. I had to really see that this is the case in my life, because belief for me is not an intellectual thing. It may start intellectually in the sense that, yes, I accept, I trust the person who's telling me this, so I accept it is true, although I haven't seen it. Somewhere it has to go from just the remote belief. I mean, like, for instance, you can tell me, let's say, some of the stuff that we hear in astronomy. You can tell me that, Venus, the planet, well, first of all, there is a planet called Venus, and that Venus has a particular climate, let's say. Now, yeah, I believe that. I have no reason to doubt it. But I don't really have any direct experience of it. I just trust that the astronomers who've been working on this forever, if they tell me, then it must be true. But it's not really, the climate in Venus is not really something that I spend much of my time thinking about, you know? So when you first tell me that this is how the universe is created, you know, I I say, okay, fine. But now we're talking about my life. We're talking about who I am and why I'm here. We're talking about something that really concerns me directly. So it's not enough for me to just say, oh, okay, well, if you say so. Do you know what I mean? It's not really for me to say, okay, I believe it or I don't believe it. You are telling me something that's fundamental to my living. So I really kind of need to explore it. There is a question that arose in me as a child. And that question is, who am I? How did I get here? How did people get here? What is this place? Why are we here? What am I supposed to do here? And these questions arise, and kids from a very, very early age begin to ask their parents. And in fact, there's a really cute video. Let me see if I can find this video. I think it was, I don't remember who shared it with me. I'm going to open my WhatsApp over here. And it's about this, whoopsie, hold on a second. Maybe I have to just stop share for a moment because now we've gone into my whole WhatsApp thing. Let me go grab that, see if I can find it. It could be that it's gone now. Let's see. If it's there, we'll share it. But it's basically a very cute 3-year-old or 4-year-old or 5-year-old, but a cute little girl, little child who asked her mother about God. I mean, these are questions that arise the moment we begin really to learn anything about anything. Okay, so I have this issue where I'm not actually seeing the pictures that I'm trying to share here, so it may not be a good thing for me to try and do that right now. I'm just wondering whether I should be playing you something while I'm looking for this thing and then come back and see if I can find it. Let me do this. Let me go on YouTube. Oh, I'm on YouTube right now, or at least, trying to be on YouTube. No, actually, that is not true. I'm not on YouTube right now. I'm first of all recording this on Zoom, and then I'm going to upload it to YouTube. Of course, you won't know that when you see it, because when you see it, it will already be on YouTube. But you can tell that I am kind of trying to talk through trying to find this video. And let's see. And it's basically this little girl. She's very, very cute. Let's see if I can find it. I'll know it immediately if I see it. It's not showing up immediately. So I'm going to put in little girl. I actually went and shared it with another group, so I might just want to find that video on that group and see. No, it's not showing up. Well, that's okay. Let me see this. Let me ask this. So here we are. We have a lot of dead space here. See if we can find it. No, that's not the one. I'm seeing all kinds of videos except the one I want. This is so annoying. So we might have to just let that go. And for sure, I will find it by tomorrow and we can play it just before I speak with Sheva. And, you know, because we're still in the first principle. So sorry about that. That took a huge amount of time and I still didn't find what I was looking for because I don't know where I put it. So what I'll do is find it when you're not there. Let me see if I can. I'll try one more thing. I'm not finding that either. That is so weird. Why am I not finding this? So, okay. I know that I responded that it was very cute. So I'm now going to search on the word cute to see. And then that was the second one. This might be it. This actually, friends, I think I have found it. Let me see if can't download this item because it's no longer on your phone. Can you believe it? After all of that, so I'm going to have to send it to myself again and do the whole thing. So we're not going to be able to do it tonight unless, you know, by some miracle, I remember someplace else that I shared it. So, but right now we can't do it. So I'm just going to do that. So sorry about all of that. I was right up on the screen there looking. So you've probably been looking at more of my mouth than you've ever wanted to see, but that's the way that goes. So let's go back to the Arya Kaplan book and just get some more stuff in because, you know, we finished with the commentary on the Mishnah. Now we're going to look at some of the other commentary that he pulls in and look at some points for discussion. And we're not going to be discussing his points for discussion, but those questions really, really work incredibly well as rhetorical questions. Because the thing about rhetorical questions, when you really begin to entertain ideas in your mind, something very interesting happens in the mind. At least it does for me. That's why it's never just the action alone of opening your mind to entertain an idea without immediately rejecting it. You'll be surprised at how quickly you reject an idea that you don't like. It's almost like this automatic trap door that just shuts. And if you can get into the habit of opening your mind, especially if you've called yourself an atheist or you've somehow resolved certain questions that you've asked yourself, and a very popular one is, why do good things happen to bad people, and why do bad things happen to good people or seem to happen to good people? And, you know, it's amazing how, first of all, in framing that question, so many assumptions have been made. And once you get into the habit of really looking at a question without immediately jumping to conclusions or running off an already established premise, it's quite phenomenal what starts to happen, because then you really start to get into real thinking. You know, you're not just in your own echo chamber, you know, just running around the same ideas. You're really letting something else in. You know, that there's this idea in Hasidut. Let me say, like, I encountered it in Hasidut. I don't know who originally said it, but I've heard it from many, many rabbis. And it's this, you know, question, the answer to the question, where is Hashem? Where is God? And the answer is where you let him in. It's an amazing idea, because if you take that personally and you actually begin to allow Hashem in, allow in the idea of omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, without boundaries, without limitations, infinitely transcendent, supernal, beyond time, beyond space. Once you begin to allow that idea, the existence of that possibility, I'm not saying that you're going to come up with a concept, because whatever concept you come up with as far as Hashem is concerned is wrong. You know, because you cannot conceive of him. He is forever, he's eternal, he's forever inconceivable. He's not a concept, you know, he's not an idea that you come up with in your, you know, little 3% gray matter over here. It's beyond all of that. But once you begin to allow your mind to expand to the possibility of limitlessness, you begin to experience your mind in a completely different way. So that's why it's so important to study Torah. You know, I mean, sure, you might have exams and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that you don't study to pass exams, but studying Torah really doesn't have anything to do with, you know, congealing around certain ideas or, you know, concretizing ideas. It's a whole, this is why the Talmud is so brilliant. There's really literally no question that you can come up with that has not been asked and answered in an infinite numbers, in an infinite number of ways by the, you know, the sages of the Talmud. That's why the study of Talmud is an amazing mind training exercise, you know? And in one of the prayers that we say in the morning, and we are going to look at it when we begin to pray, and I might actually have, you know, somebody whose Hebrew sounds better than my own read it for us. And the prayer, of course, tells you all the things that you should really do. And at the very end of it, it says, Talmud Torah keneged kulam. And the study of Torah is equal to all those things, you know? And the reason you have to study Torah is because, first of all, Torah is the living word of Hashem. And that in itself is mind-blowing, you know? But the study of Torah literally, and I'm going to look more into this because studies have been done, and I'm going to look more into the studies. But the study of Torah literally has a neurological, I don't even know if that's the word I'm looking for, but it has a neurological effect. It actually rewires the brain, you know, and it sets up brand new neural pathways. I mean, it's a real thing. Torah is alive. It's a living document. You know, it's not, you know, something that somebody wrote 5 million years ago. And no, it's alive because it's you. It's your life. It's wild. It's really, really totally wild. So coming back to the 13 principles of Jewish faith, and I'm really sorry if I've been kind of a little all over the place. I'm kind of just, you know, this is a less structured, you know, talk today. Not that any of my talks are structured. I always mean to structure my talks, and then I never really get to it because I just get so excited and these ideas pop in and I'm trying to cover everything and they're kind of all over the place with it. So, but let's reconvene. Let's get together again and let's join Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan and in the first principle. All right, so here we are again. The first principle, I believe with perfect faith that God is the creator and ruler of all things. He alone has made, does make, and will make all things. And we've looked at the commentary on the Mishnah, and we ended with this line that the Torah teaches us this first principle in the first of the 10 commandments. I am the Lord your God. This is an extraordinary thing because when it comes to the 10 commandments, I'm just going to have to take you to the book of Shemot, the book of Exodus. I'm going to take you to the wilderness. We have just been taken out of Egypt. We have seen amazing miracles occur. We've seen the parting of the seas. Now, the word for Egypt, and I learned this, it blew my mind when I learned it. The word for Egypt in Hebrew is Mitzrayim. You know, we always talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim, the exodus from Egypt. Mitzrayim. But Mitzrayim in the Hebrew also shares the same root and the same meaning with the idea of limitation, the idea of constriction, the idea of bondage. And so when we talk about the exodus from Egypt, it's not just a migration out of a country that we've been living in for, 400 years or however long we spent in Egypt, but it is also the beginning of an opening in the mind where we are literally escaping. We're coming out because this is what Hashem says, I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt, took you out of the house of bondage. That is an amazing, amazing idea. And so that there is a creative principle, there is a creator who interceded in our craziness and in our descent into darkness and slavery and idolatry and opened our minds and let so that the light could come in, and he took us out of Egypt. He sent someone specifically to get us out of this mindset. Our minds had become set. They'd become congealed. We were now engaged in worshiping a piece of stone, worshiping a human being, worshiping, the Nile River. We were really completely consumed, if you like, by the idea of 3 dimensions. We were no longer, or we were forgetting very quickly. It's really like going to sleep. And, we're in a nightmare and we think that nightmare has become your reality. It's an amazing idea. And we talk about this. Actually, this is one of the prayers that we say, after, in our grace after meals, after eating on Shabbat or Yom Tov, a holy day, we say a hymn. Well, it's actually a psalm, a Tehillim, a chapter of Tehillim. I believe it's 126 in the book of Tehillim. And I'm actually going to go and just grab my Tehillim there for a second. You know what? Why don't I see? Yeah, let me just grab my Tehillim. I don't know if you can hear me or not. I was going to just try and find it on Chabad.org and share it with you, but we're not going to be doing it long enough for me to share the screen. So I think it's capital 126 in Tehillim, and it's a song of ascents. And yes, it is 126. And we say this before we say the Birkat Hamazon, the grace after meals that we say on Shabbat and on holy days after eating, a proper meal. And a proper meal contains bread, by the way. So we're going to talk about that later on. But let's just stay with this. And so before we get into thanking Hashem for the meal, we say this psalm. And I always found it just really interesting because this is how it goes. A song of ascents. And the song of ascents were the songs and the Tehillim, the songs of praise that the priests, the Levites, used to say as they ascended the steps of the holy altar back in Jerusalem. But that's another thing that we're going to be talking about. But let's try and stay on track here. My ADD is really driving me today, but I'm going to try and stay on track. Thankfully, we're speaking Torah, so it doesn't matter where we go, we are still on track. Okay, a song of ascents. When the Lord will return the exiles of Zion, we will have been like dreamers. Then our mouth will be filled with laughter and our tongue with songs of joy. But what always captivated me about this is that we will have been like dreamers, because really being stuck in Mitzrayim, in the house of bondage in Egypt, is really like being in a nightmare. We're caught in a nightmare and it seems really real and we're suffering, and just enough light, we are suffering so much that we cry out for help. And somewhere we remember that we have a creator, and we cry out to him for help. In the moment that we do that, of course, the help is given. Because, as we read in the book of Shemot, when Hashem starts to talk to Moshe Rabbeinu, he says, that I heard the cries of the children of Israel. They cried out to me in their torment, and I heard them. How could he not? He's everywhere. We wandered off, or thought we wandered off for a moment, but we can't wander away from Hashem, because he is everything, everywhere. He's omnipresent. He's omnipresent. He is everywhere. He's the immanent reality. He's the creator. And so this goes back to the first principle, where it says that it's in the first of the 10 commandments, I am the Lord your God. Let's take a very quick look at what that actually says. What does the 10 commandments actually say? Let's see if we can, I'm going to stop share for a moment, and we're going to just take a look at that and come back to that. And the point of all of this switching back and forth is that when we talk about these principles of faith, we're not just talking about theories that we're going to be learning. It's not like learning Archimedes' principle in high school physics. It's not like that. This is something that we, in a particular sense, need to demonstrate to ourselves. So, yes, we say, I believe, but it's not, like I said, believing that there's a planet called Venus and it has a particular shape, and, it's not the same. Words really do fail, and I'm going to have to examine much more and research more thoroughly what the word belief is in Hebrew, why that word is used, what the gematria is, because every single letter in Hebrew is also a word and has a meaning. Its position in the alphabet is important. It also has a numerical value. So in a particular sense, and this is why every single Jew really needs to learn Hebrew, in a particular sense, Hebrew is an impossible language to translate. Because, yeah, translate what you think the words mean. But because each letter also has a meaning, each letter is also a number, the numerical value, the definition of the individual letters, and how they combine. All of that stuff is extremely important, which does really render it impossible to translate. Now, I know that Moshe Rabbeinu translated the Torah into 70 languages when he finished scribing it. But we have to really understand that when we talk about translating, when we're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, it's not the same as, your court interpreter writing down what they think it means. The translation literally translates 70 languages. You have these 7 midot. Now we're going to go into Kabbalah, and I really don't want to do that because that's going to be so confusing. But all I really want to express here is that the word believe, as you would use it, in the daily news, is not quite the same as it is used here. That here we're talking about understanding, accepting, practicing, and applying. It's like a 4-step process, where you really come to ingest it and integrate the idea, and it becomes how you think. It's not just, oh, so-and-so said. You're not just repeating something you read in a book. You're now expressing your own thought. That's an amazing idea. And so there is a translation that happens, from the page into your own neural pathways. And that's what we talk about when we talk about belief. It literally becomes integrated into your own thought system. And that's the only way you can really be a representative. That's the only way you can really be a Jew who is really a representative of Hashem, and your job is to shine the light of Hashem. Your job is to teach the Torah to the nations, And so it has to be your own thought system. Now, we thought that we were just talking about, a group of people, a group of rabbis. No, this is personal. This is individual. And this is really what we're here to do, to really see what it is to live an observant life, and to really see that we cannot separate. That Jewish observance is not about, doing certain things on certain days and eating certain things and not eating certain things. All of that is included, but that is all included in being a Jew. It's so exciting and so fantastic when, we really begin to get a glimpse of what's happening here. So I am the Lord your God, who took you out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Now, I was going to go pull that up, but I just keep saying it over and over again. So there's no real reason for you to see it written. But that's what this principle is teaching us. The Torah teaches the first principle, and the first principle teaches the Torah. It's really quite wild because it's all Torah, And so the question then is, how is that for you? How is that for you? And this is where I say that one of the first things that happened to me was a real need, first of all, for complete honesty as to where I was in my own mind with Hashem, with the idea of religion, with all of that. And so I needed to need Hashem. And I did need Hashem. I was yearning to know the truth. I wanted to know what was true and how that affected me. What was my purpose here? What was I supposed to do here? And the more the mind opens to learning that, I mean, the truth of the matter is that if you begin to ask those questions, you will be answered, because the answers are here. But you have to be asking the question from a genuine need to know, not from a need to prove a point, not from a need to justify a point of view. Because these are the words of truth. These are not, these are not said so, we can, I don't know, be in a position to debate. There's no observant Jew is really interested in debate. What would I be debating with? Truth doesn't really debate falsity. Light is not fighting with darkness, fighting for supremacy. Light abolishes darkness by its very being. And somebody once said, you never have a situation like right now. I'm sitting in the light. I'm sitting in my room, and the light is kind of shining out, and people from outside in the dark. What time is it now? It's 10:14 p.m. People outside can see the light in here, and it lightens up their spaces a little bit, but the darkness is not coming in here. The darkness is not competing with the light. And so, yeah, this is not a matter of debate. We're being shown and we're being given the truth. And the truth really is what our life is. It's what our freedom is. It's what our joy is. Emet, as they say. All right, so where are we now? I'm thinking actually that we might have gone way further in terms of time than I wanted to go. So let's just read some of, the code and the foundations of Torah. He goes into a whole bunch of things here. He goes into Kabbalah. Where he talks about Yad and Yesodei HaTorah. I mean, he's going into the Kabbalah. We're not necessarily going to go into that today because it's not really necessary. But one of the things he'll tell you is that the ultimate foundation and pillar of wisdom is the realization that there is a first being who brought everything else into existence. First here is not as opposed to second. And this is why the words are really, like I say, it's rewiring the mind, and it's undoing your very kind of set and almost kind of fossilized thought system here. And there has to be a willingness to open up. This is the whole idea of tshuva, because tshuva is a recognition that you've just gone far off into the distance. You no longer know where you're going, how you are, and you make a decision to come back, to return. So there is an openness that happens. The same thing as if you're in the process of converting. Well, what is the conversion process? The conversion process is literally, taking all your schmutz and kind of washing it away and reframing it. And I'm talking from my own experience, from what happened to me. And so what I'm now learning is that the ultimate foundation and pillar of wisdom, never thought of it like that before, that the pillar, the foundation, the yesod, the foundation and pillar of wisdom is the realization. That's an amazing idea. I love the way he phrases this, because it's a realization. So it doesn't really matter that you didn't feel like you had it yesterday. In your realizing it, it becomes the foundation from which you progress, from which you grow, from which you advance. So in a particular sense, it's an undoing of what you thought your foundation was. In that sense, so you're being liberated from a false idea of self. That's an amazing idea. And so when you look at the idea of being liberated from Egypt and what Egypt represented, and you look at Egypt and you look at the how solid it seemed to be, so much so that it was kind of rooted in idolatry, the worshiping of pieces of stone, like you have a Sphinx and these pyramids, and even the pharaohs, these incredibly evil and cruel individuals, and a lot of the pharaohs were. And that even in death they are mummified, and so there's this real reluctance to let go of the 3D and even open up into something quite wonderful. And so the body is kind of bound up in this way, and it's preserved, and they put all kinds of herbs and spices to keep it in that shape, to keep it in that form. And there's a real worshiping of the mass identity, the gravity, really. It's quite an interesting idea. And that looks like a solid foundation, doesn't it? The ultimate foundation, however, and the pillar of wisdom is the realization. And it's something that happens in the mind, in the Chabad, so to speak. Oh, it's quite wonderful that there is a first being who brought everything else into existence. And so the real foundation is in the whole idea of beyond earthly foundation. Isn't that wild? Everything else in heaven and earth only exists as a result of the reality of his existence. Wow. That's the foundation of wisdom. That's where you begin. And so you have to really open your mind to that idea. So if you're going to begin anywhere, you make Hashem your beginning. You don't make your 3 dimensions your beginning. Yeah. You are the creation of the Holy One, blessed be he. It's an amazing idea, isn't it? So we're going to leave it there tonight because I think I've talked quite a lot, but that's enough for you to really begin to entertain. These are the foundations of Torah now. We're into the principles of Jewish faith. Isn't that wonderful? And so tomorrow we're going to have my friend Sheva. We're going to talk to her tomorrow afternoon. And we're going to talk more about the experience of actually living these principles, accepting these principles, and living according to them. All right, my dears, I love you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for putting up with me. And, my mind kind of that just goes all over the place and my hands are flying and so on. And, because of my background, which I love. This is, in case you don't know this, by the way, my background here is the Western Wall. It's the Kotel. It's the holiest spot on earth right now. It's what we have left of the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. And it's standing there as a reminder that the time is coming very, very soon when it will be rebuilt in its splendor and glory, and knowledge of Hashem will fill the world as water fills the bed of the sea. That, of course, is the coming of Mashiach. May it happen now in our time. I love you forever, and I will see you tomorrow, God willing. You have a wonderful, wonderful night. Bye for now.